Imagine an empire so vast, it made the world tremble from the gates of Europe to the shores of Japan. An empire where death rode beside strategy and obedience was written in blood. At the heart of this whirlwind stood one name, Genghis Khan, a name now synonymous with absolute power. But he didn't forge that legacy alone. Behind every conquest, there were shadows, 4 of them. 4 warriors so lethal, they seemed carved from myth. They weren't merely generals, they were living extensions of Genghis Khan's will. Trained to crush civilizations with precision, brutality, and ruthless intelligence. Their names echoed across deserts, mountains, and battlefields like omens of annihilation. Today, you'll meet the 4 war dogs of Genghis Khan. Men who built the greatest land empire in human history, armed with bows, steel, and strategic genius. And after hearing their stories, you may never see history the same way again. Before empires, before war drums, before the title Genghis Khan echoed across continents, there was just a boy. Temujin. A child born into the unforgiving Mongolian steppes, where survival wasn't a right, but a constant battle. His father was poisoned, his tribe exiled him, and for years he wandered as an outcast, hungry, cold, forgotten. But from pain, power was born. Temujin did not break, he evolved. He began to unite the scattered Mongol clans not with promises, but with purpose. He demanded loyalty, rewarded strength, and crushed betrayal with merciless precision. And as the steppes answered his call, one name rose above the rest: Genghis Khan, universal ruler. He didn't just create an empire, he unleashed a machine of conquest. But even the mightiest ruler needs more than vision, he needs executioners. And so, from his blood-stained rise, 4 men emerged. 4 warriors who would become the sharpest blades in his arsenal. They would not just fight his wars, they would become his war. He wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the fastest, but he was the one you could never break. His name was Jelme, and when arrows rained from the sky, it was Jelme who stood in the path. His loyalty to Genghis Khan wasn't strategy, it was sacred. In one legendary battle, Genghis was struck by an arrow and began to bleed out. Jelme didn't panic, he didn't flee. He ripped off his armor, hoisted the wounded Khan onto his back, and ran for hours through enemy lines. When water ran out, he did the unthinkable. He opened a vein in his own body and gave his blood to his leader. Jelme wasn't just a warrior, he was Genghis Khan's living shield. Wherever the arrows flew, he was the wall. Wherever death came close, he stepped between it and the future of the empire. They say steel bends, flesh breaks, but Jelme endured. In the chronicles of Mongol conquest, his name is whispered not with fear but with awe. His name meant arrow, and not by accident. He didn't inherit it, he earned it by shooting Genghis Khan himself. In the chaos of battle, a single arrow struck Genghis in the neck. Later, when victory was claimed, the great Khan demanded to know who had wounded him. A young warrior stepped forward and said, "It was I. I aimed for your throat and missed." The crowd froze. Execution was expected, but Genghis Khan smiled and gave him a new name, Jebe, the arrow. From that day forward, Jebbe rode not against Genghis, but beside him, swift, lethal, and unstoppable. He became a master of cavalry tactics, a ghost across enemy lines, the one who struck from nowhere and vanished without trace. It was Jebe who crushed the Russians, Jebe who pierced the heart of the Khwarezmian Empire. Where others charged blindly, Jebe hunted with precision. He didn't just fight battles, he ended them. And when the world looked back and asked, how did Genghis Khan conquer so much, so fast? The answer often rode in silence just ahead of the storm. If Genghis Khan was the soul of the Mongol Empire, Subotai was its brain. He didn't wield his sword in rage, he wielded it like a chess master moves a piece. Born a humble blacksmith's son, Subotai rose to become the greatest military strategist the Mongols and perhaps the world had ever known. He commanded over 20 campaigns across 5,000 miles, defeating armies 3 times the size of his own. His tactics rewrote the very rules of war. Subotai could strike in Europe, vanish in Asia, and reappear on your flank before you even knew he was gone. In Russia, he crushed princes. In Hungary, he broke armies. And all of it, with mathematical precision. What made him terrifying wasn't his strength, it was his mind. He studied terrain like a sculptor studies marble. He read his enemies like open scrolls. When the Mongols defeated the combined forces of Hungary and Poland in 1241, it wasn't brute force, it was Subotai's masterstroke. 2 armies, separated by weeks of travel, attacked in a perfect pincer. No one had ever fought like this, no one has since. Subotai didn't just help build the empire, he made sure it could stretch across the world and still win. If Jelme was the shield, Jebe the arrow, and Subotai the mind, then Mukhali was the storm. He wasn't born into power, but forged his name through blood and loyalty. Mukalli was one of Genghis Khan's most trusted generals, a warrior molded by war and guided by ruthless discipline. He was the thunder that struck when all words had failed. Genghis Khan called him the Loyal, and for good reason. In battle, Mukalli was ferocious. He didn't wait for orders, he was the order. When he rode, enemies broke before his charge. When he ruled, even the distant provinces of northern China trembled at his will. While the Khan expanded west, Mukhali was entrusted with the east commanding Mongol forces deep into Jin dynasty territory. He didn't just fight, he administered, judged, rebuilt. His leadership fused terror with structure, war with governance. His face carried the scars of countless campaigns, his armor blackened by smoke and victory. Yet behind the wrath was unwavering clarity. Mukhali never struck blindly. Every action had purpose. And when he returned to the Khan, his enemies in chains and his mission complete, Genghis knew this was not merely a general. This was war made loyal. And when the 4 dogs of war rode together, shield, arrow, mind, and storm, there was no force on earth that could stand in their path. History remembers Genghis Khan as a force of nature, a conqueror who reshaped continents and shattered civilizations. But no empire is built by one man alone. Behind every victory there were 4 shadows, 4 warriors who didn't just follow orders, they became the breath, the bones, and the blood of a new world order. Jelme, the shield loyalty that never broke. Jebe, the arrow lethal precision born from bold defiance. Subotai, the mind tactics so brilliant they rewrote the art of war. Mukhali, the storm commanding both battlefield and empire with ferocity and control. Together they were more than soldiers. They were Genghis Khan's war made flesh. And though the Mongol Empire has long since faded into the dust of the steppes, their names still echo through ruins, in strategies, in every tale of conquest told to this day. Because some empires fall, but the warriors who built them, they become legend. And now you know their names.